I'm Jonny Smith, and Richard isn't here, so this is an OTOSOT Ask Me Anything special. Richard's at the Grand Tour launch event, but that's actually not the reason why he can't be here. It's because I'm an idiot with my diary, but we won't go into that. So I'm here running things solo. OTOSOT, as you know, is where you send us questions and we answer them. So I've had some specific questions from listeners for me to answer. It's a bit weird doing this on my own, so I'm trying my best. First things first is, hi Jonny, do you want your Speedman29? Is that actually your real name? You haven't signed it off with your name. Okay, well, Speedman29, great name. Fifth Gear was more about car reviews than crazy road trips compared to Top Gear or Grand Tour. True, we did do a few road trips, but we largely couldn't afford them. What would be your dream TG/GT style road trip adventure? Where are you going? Who with? And what are you driving? Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of variables here, but I would go with a sweet guy called Rich Porter. I would go with another sweet guy called Greg James from Radio 1. I'd go with two other sweet guys called the Franchitti brothers, Dario and Marino. And look, you haven't put a cap on how many people, so bollocks, let's do this. I'd bring the Cores along as well. We'd been in separate cars most of the time, I think. I'm going to be driving, or probably palming, a Panther 6. There are only two in existence, so I'd either have to buy one, borrow one, or find the moulds and make a third one. And this said Panther 6 would have an amazing in-car record player and 8-track audio system. So I'd be playing some serious music that would drown out the twin-turbo Cadillac 500 cubic inch V8, which would be hushed because it's turbo. Where are we? Okay, Mr. Speedman29. We're in the Florida Keys. Yes, because I've never driven the Florida Keys and I've always quite liked it. I thought it looks pretty cool. And I've driven a lot of cool roads, but I thought I'd try the Flow Rider Keys. Never done it. Quite fancy it. Or the southern tip of India, so around the sort of arrowhead of India, the Kerala area, which I have driven before, but in a diesel Hindustan Ambassador that was painfully slow and smelly. But I did that for a charity, Teenage Cancer Trust charity banger rally, and it was enormously memorable. So that's what I'm going to do. All right? Does that answer your question? This question is from David Barskyfield. He said that I can say his name. Good. Thank goodness for that. I have a habit of being a bit crap with that. Hi, Jonny. Do you find it amusing that whilst you acknowledge the Max Power era for what it was, others, such as Nick Trott, clearly try to forget about it? Also, what happened to the Max Power writer with the silver EK Civic with white wheels who just, in inverted commas, disappeared? Who is this person, alive or deceased? Oh no, this is another question. Who is the person, alive or deceased, that you admire the most in the motor industry? Okay, so let's go back. Well, I'm really glad to have lived through the Max Power era and enjoyed it, witnessed it, been a small part of it. I was not a prominent part of it. There were other journalists and earlier pioneers who really set this ball in motion. And it was hugely influential, I think, on the rest of the motor industry. Not as influential as Top Gear was, but still pretty influential, and almost kind of the Sun newspaper in terms of clever sidelines and headlines and that sort of thing. I think Nick Trott enjoyed lots of it, actually. I don't know if he shuns it, does he? He was one of the kind of pioneers, really. I don't know about the Max Power writer that you refer to with the silver. I'd have to think about the silver EK Civic with white wheels. I don't know if anybody's actually disappeared, but they have gone off into different corners of the world. Some are still in the motor industry, some are not. I don't stay in touch with most of them, but some of them have been very successful. And I think the stuff that we did do, you probably couldn't repeat now, and it might be for the best, some of it, but it happened. And it's all history. It's part of the fabric of life, I suppose. Who do I admire most in the motor industry? This is a tough question. I thought about this, David, for a bit. He also signed his email off as, cheers, mate, thanks, mate, bye, David. I think I admire, there's a few people I admire. I admire very much two women. Sue Baker, the presenter and motoring journalist who's one of the original Top Gear presenters, I'm sure. She sadly passed away in November 2022, and she had an amazing memory for lots of car specs and could deliver a really brilliant review on camera without auto cue and all those things. And she was notably a really decent rally co-driver to a certain Michelle Mouton in a sport Audi Quattro. And Michelle Mouton is, she's in the motor industry in so much as she's a famous driver, rally driver, and she's fantastic. I'd love to meet Michelle Mouton one day. I also admire Vicky Butler-Henderson a lot because obviously she was in Top Gear originally. She was she was around in a time in the 90s when Laddism was in full swing, and she knew how to work it. She enjoyed it. She was and is really playful, talented behind the wheel. That smile is so genuine on camera, and she's a joy to work with. She's brilliant. Other people, I guess, let's just say these two people are probably got questionable reasons to admire them in the motor industry. John DeLorean I have to mention because not so much for the DeLorean, although that is what he's almost only remembered for, but also for helping conceive the muscle car, because he convinced General Motors to make the Pontiac GTO, and the car which just came out before that was almost a GTO, which I've all of a sudden forgotten the name of. That's irritating. And they were the sort of godfathers of the muscle car movement. So, and John was extremely clever, cocky but clever. Another person I sort of admire for maybe some of the right and wrong reasons is Carlos Ghosn. Admire him for turning around the fortunes of various companies, but Nissan, Renault, the most notable, until he was arrested in 2018 by Japanese officials for the misuse of company assets, I believe. And then he did a Ghosn 60 kilos and ran away, or posted himself away in a box to escape the country so he wasn't convicted. And I think he's still at large in Lebanon. And apparently, according to, I just looked at this quickly, according to Bloomberg from 2020, he still has $60 million of shares in Nissan, Renault and Mitsubishi. I cannot believe that that's the case. And his wealth is about 120 million. So, clever guy. I met him once on the launch of the second generation Qashqai. And there's so many questions there. I'd like to meet him again if I could. What on earth has gone on with him? But seriously, a good captain of a ship. Really, I think he's been a good manager, been a good CEO. I'd probably let the power go to his head a little bit more. Other people that are slightly less questionable, or maybe they're not, that I admire in this industry, and these people are both alive, is Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Porter. I admire Porter because he's been in this game a long time, and where he is right now, as I'm recording this, he's at the launch party, or the almost the farewell party for Clarkson, Hammond and May releasing the final grand tour with them in. And it really is the end of an era and quite an emotional thing. And he's obviously worked with those guys for 20 years or more. And he's worked on Top Gear for more than 20 years. So, yeah, he's created a lot of car content, car TV of repute and seriously memorable stuff. So, and Clarkson, yeah, he's one of those people I was allowed to stay up late and watch when I was a kid. I could watch Top Gear on Sunday night as long as I'd had a bath and got into my dressing gown first. This is a question from Emma Tyso. Hi, Emma. Hi, hope you're both good. Jonny, what is your favourite Tamiya model car, and what's in their collection? Oh, so okay, what have I got in my Tamiya collection? I can't say I've got a Tamiya collection. She said we have a small collection. Attach some photos. We've got a Subaru, a Ferrari, a Porsche, a Hornet, a Monster Beetle, a Buggy Champ, Rough Rider, a Transit. Fucking Transit. We'd love a lunchbox. And we've also branched out into some other RC cars, like a WPL Suzuki Carry, Toyota FJ45, and a tank. Well, Emma, that's cool. You've got a shelf full of beautiful radio-controlled vehicles in your spare room. I've got a couple of Tamiyas. First of all, I've got an RC4WD Defender rock crawler, which is not Tamiya, which is very detailed and heavy. I like that. And low geared. I like crawling, you see. I think more so these days than going really fast. I like the crawling thing. I do have a re-released Sandscorcher that I've never built, still in the box, which I got given by Tamiya when I interviewed Mr. Tamiya and featured the life-size Sandscorcher that was being made and subsequently sold to Tamiya. I've had a tour of the Tamiya HQ, which was really memorable, and this was sort of before YouTube was a thing and before I was certainly on YouTube, and I would like to go and almost do that again for my YouTube channel for the Late Break Show. I'd love to meet Mr. Tamiya again, who's a very old chap now, but it's still a family business, and I'd very much like to take people on a tour of the Tamiya building in Shizuoka, which I took the bullet train there, and it was so cool. So I'd very much like to do that. What other cars have I got? I've got a gold edition lunchbox. I've got an original Monster Beetle that somebody via Twitter in just before lockdown gave me. They found it in their loft and it was a bit broken, and they'd heard that I sold my original Monster Beetle to put money towards my real first car Beetle. And they kind of gifted it to me, and I have chipped away and done some work on that over time, but I want to actually revamp that completely. And I have got another Tamiya car called an Agrios, which is four-wheel steer, four-wheel drive, twin shocks on each corner, seriously over-engineered lump of a thing. And my son, I've got him into it, and he's got an RC Mark IV Supra drift car, which he built all himself when he was 11. Did an amazing job spraying the shell. I'm really proud of him. And RC drifting is fantastic. RC drifting is a right hoot, actually. I'd like to build a serious RC drift car. But probably the one on the list is a Tamiya Toyota Hilux Bruiser, because it has that 3-speed gearbox. And it has that metal chassis, and I remember it as a kid in the 80s. It was just like unobtainium, so expensive for what it was. And you can still buy it. They re-released it. This is a letter, not a letter. I don't know why I say letters. It's a bloody email from Tommy Hartman. Tommy, hi Jonny, I'm a big fan of your work and have been for the last 20 years, basically half of my life. The Late Break Show is an absolute joy to watch. This is not me writing to myself, just so everybody knows. The Late Break shows are an absolute joy to watch, and I hope it continues for at least another 20 years. Well, that is lovely. I mean, goodness me, 20 years, who knows what's going to happen. My question is, though, where do you see the Late Break show in 10 to 20 years' time? Do you hope to continue it, or would you be swayed by another TV presenting job, say the Grand Tour, or even Top Gear if it ever came back? Obviously, I know you went for Top Gear a while back, but I'm interested to hear what direction you want to take. Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye. Tommy. Thanks, Tommy. Oh, he's put PS. I've watched your son's TikTok channel about your cooking. Yeah, I'm a chef. So if you want some free cooking lessons, let me know. Well, I definitely need cooking lessons, because hence the name of that TikTok channel is Dad's Average Cooking. Well, that's a big question, Tommy. You see, the Late Break show is a YouTube channel that centres around me presenting. So I'm front of house, really. I do sort of wonder as I get older, will my opinion account for less, and will people not care about watching it anymore? And there'll be many other channels which come along, and different platforms. So I bear that in mind. I try and keep a fairly open mind when it comes to automotive, and the point of the channel was to be quite a broad church of appreciation, really. So that's why we have EVs, and that's why we have classics, and that's why we have barn finds, and that's why we have interesting new car reviews. I don't review all new cars anymore because I just can't. So in 10 to 20 years, I would like to think the platform, the brand, will have grown and still exist. I would like there to be more than me in front of the camera. Would I be swayed by another TV presenting job? I mean, never say never. I've given up chasing it because YouTube takes up a lot of time. I got a little bit disillusioned with TV because you pitch constantly what you think are good, solid ideas for new content, and they fall on deaf ears. And I just found it to be a bit of a waste of time and effort. Would I do TV again? Yes, I would do TV again, but it would have to be right, and it would have to be authentic, and I would have to be hopefully involved in the creative process in order for it to feel right. But I'm interested to see where the Grand Tour goes from now. Obviously, Richard's working on it. So Richard has the inner workings of what's going on, and I hear a little bit, but I can't say. And I have no idea what's going to happen to Top Gear if it ever comes back. I mean, we have these new forms of media, which is why traditional TV is having a harder time creating this stuff. And I really don't know the answer. I would like to say, though, never say never. Who knows? I mean, people have joked. I said to Rich, maybe after a bottle of Malbec once, which doesn't happen very often, by the way. Please don't think that I drink Malbec on a nightly basis, because I don't. I think that it'd be great if Smith & Sniff was picked up by a TV channel, and we could do videos again, and we could do actual road trips. So it would be like, I always say, it would be like a sort of less funny, more rubbish, lower budget version than The Trip with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon. That's what I would love. This is a question next from Andy Hicks. Hi JS, USSG. Just wondering, if people sign off with SSG so much now, it's funny. Just wondering, how much of the driver's seat did you inhale up your balloon knot when you did the stability test in the Ford B-Max on 5th gear? Credit where credit's due, because I would not have done that. So tip of the hat to you. Also, I hope there was plenty of piss taking out of JP, Plato, for getting out before you and the man-child Tiff went for it. Thanks for keeping me entertained through either of the pods or videos. Well, I remember that shoot well, and I remember before the cameras were rolling, Plato just said, not a chance, the car's going to go over. And Tiff said, the car might go over, but it will definitely lose control. It just will. So they knew what was ahead. Tiff, irrespective, Tiff still was fine and up for it. And I just thought to myself, well, cars are safe now. Let's see what happens. I think that's my attitude, really. And it was fun. It was where was that? That was at Millbrook. I'm pretty sure that was at Millbrook. Yeah. Silly, really. Not as scary as when Plato put cruise control on at 140 odd in a Phaeton and got into the back seat. I think I had a proper sense of humour failure then. He didn't tell me he was going to do that. This is from Charlie Lewis. Charlie. The title of this email is Rare But Nobody Cares Dubai. Johnny, you've bagged the job hosting a Rare But Nobody Cares car event in Dubai. It's hot. That would not be a popular event in Dubai. They don't like Rare But Nobody Cares cars. It's very hot. It's very sticky. You've got a 45-minute drive from your hotel to the showground. Are you using aircon or will you be sweating it out? As you might know, I'm an aircon avoider. Dubai, though, that's a tough one for AC avoidance. If I was in a Kia or a Hyundai, I might use driver-only AC mode on the lowest setting. But if I was representing Rare But Nobody Cares, I wonder what I'd be in. I'd be in like a Toyota Will or something like that, I reckon. Yeah. I'm trying to think what Dubai spec Rare But Nobody Cares, right? It'd be quite a lot of Toyotas, I would have thought, and some very forgettable. Did they do a car called an Echo? I seem to remember a Toyota Echo. I think it was a Toyota. It's like a booted Yaris, but looks worse than a Yaris in all ways, and probably CVT grimness. Do you know what? 45 minutes is not that long. I'll go ultra thin linen shirt and I'll just stick it out. Yeah? I'll stick it out, Charlie. Yeah, I will. I could do this. This one is from Ryan Birch. Hey, Ryan. A few years ago, I met Johnny at the I Love You Man event at Caffeine and Machine in that weird period between lockdowns. He gave me some advice that was to not leave my then PR job and pursue an automotive journalism career. As a result, I completely ignored him and now work as a content editor for Auto Express. Shit, okay. Well done, Ryan. My question for Johnny is, if you didn't end up on the career path that you're on, what job would you have done instead? And if you had to start it all over again, what would you do differently, knowing everything you know now? Goodness me. Love the pod. CM, TM, BM. Ryan. Okay, Ryan. Big questions. What would I do? Yeah. What would I do if I hadn't done this? I mean, I like to think that I would have ended up in the media. I would like to think that I would have ended up in I don't know, TV commercials, filming commercials, or which could have in turn been, sizzles or little clips that you use on social media that involve clever ideas for brands. I've always been attracted to that. This is why I used to love car adverts. What else would I have been doing? Well, I always fancied working, because I used to have a hobby and a Saturday job working in an aquarium department of a garden centre and then a dedicated aquarium shop. So I was massively into fish tanks. So I do wonder whether or not I would have ended up in aquaria of some sort. I love the idea of so I quite like gardening, but I don't do it very often. But some sort of high-end landscaping involving building ponds and lakes, I always quite like the idea of. And it is an ongoing aspiration of mine to have my own pond. I've never had a pond. I'd like a swimming pond. And hopefully one day that is something that will happen. I also thought about an indoor pond once, but maybe that's just stupid. I know people have them on really amazing houses, but we'll see. So that my career path might have involved something like that. I do like being outdoors rather than being stuck in an office. But I'm so used to having a job that's unpredictable now. Having a job that's predictable, I think, would be a strange twist. Very strange. And I say unpredictable because, obviously I've been self-employed now for 18 years. And getting employed on TV and getting employed doing shoots and travelling to launches and stuff, your diary isn't the same every week. It just isn't. So it's quite hard to get into any form of routine, and that's a blessing and a curse, really. We're getting deep now, aren't we? And so if I had to start it all over again, what would you do differently, knowing everything you know now? Oh, my gosh. I don't think I'd do anything differently. Ryan, I'm really pleased with what I've achieved. And I have made mistakes career-wise, and but I've hopefully learnt from them, and I've got here. Never thought I'd get a job on the TV. Ended up doing 18 series of Fifth Gear. I'm really pleased with that, and they paved the way for doing other work and having solid relationships with car manufacturers and other brands. So, yeah, maybe I would have done YouTube a little sooner, 2 years sooner, 3 years sooner. I did YouTube with Robert Llewellyn on Fully Charged, and I really enjoyed 3 years on that. I really enjoyed that. Did some content I'm very proud of. Cheers, Ryan. I hope you're thoroughly enjoying your job at Auto Express as content editor. This is for Tim Klaproth. What a great, with a K and a double P. Okay. Hi there, Jonny. Non-car related question. Hi-fi setups. What have you got on that side of things? Well, Tim, I'm actually sat opposite my Marantz hi-fi separates because I'm a bit old school. I have still got hi-fi separates. And damn, I can't remember the name of my speakers. They're called Scandiners, I think. They look like a blob of blancmange, and they're red acrylic. They sound ace. And the Marantz is... Hang on, I'm just going to run over and check the serial numbers. Hang on. There's a PM66 Special Edition, Signature Edition, and a CD63 Mark II SE KI Edition. So I've got two Marantz KI editions, the amp and the CD player, and I've got a TIAC DAB radio stack on the top. Yeah, I don't own a turntable. Never have. Would like to own a turntable at some point, but not until my life's a little bit more settled and I own a house again. I recently donated my old TIAC separates, old separate 70s ones, really solid wood outer casings, and some decent old Wharfdale speakers to the boys at Retro Power to put in the Den Automotive, which is their new venture, which I'm actually going to be hosting the open event of on the 21st of September in Hinckley, Leicestershire. So that was a nice segue, wasn't it? You can find them on Instagram. I've had numerous old school separates. My dad was a separates guy, but he's chopped them all in and downsized to a Bose thing, which looks like, I don't know, a big piece of cheese. Steve Parrish writes, "Hi, SSGs, Jonny, look. Have you ever attended a test drive of a vehicle and during the handover to the next journo done an extremely ripe fart just before you exit the car? Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye." I didn't read this. It didn't read this email all the way down. I thought it was going to be a serious question. Have I ever done a ripe fart before you exit the car? Yeah, I think I have. I think I've done one before because I've been in the car with other people, and so I've been holding it off, and I've got a bit of a bubble, bit of a sort of gastric aero bar, and then just as the other person opens the door and gets out, I let out the bad gas, but the bad gas sort of hangs in there and has that horrible poulasou effect. Yes, I'm not proud of it. Dan Beavis, hi Dan. He's sent me an email which says, "I've got a max power question for Jonny on this week's OTOSOT. It's in the late 90s, early 2000s, back in the heyday and all that. Max power circulation figures were eye-wateringly huge. Presumably because we didn't have social media, there weren't many TV channels, and our mums wouldn't let us buy FHM. Astounding and quite probably apocryphal tales abound regarding Max Power's runaway budget. It did have a big budget, and the improbable things achieved with it. I remember a story about one feature car being transported over to the Nürburgring on the magazine's dollar simply because it would make a better backdrop for the shoot. A couple of feature cars were rumoured to have had new sets of alloy wheels bought for them by the mag in order to make them look better, or I suspect more likely to appease the relevant advertisers. These things may or may not have actually happened, but Jonny, you've got the inside intel. What are the most ostentatious and frivolous things you remember happening that would make us lowly mag editors today weep into our budget spreadsheets. Cheers, gentlemen. Thanks, gentlemen. Bye. Dan, good question, man. Okay. I'm pretty sure that wheels used to get purchased for potential feature cars to seal the deal, and like you've just said, for big advertisers, regular advertisers, to make them happy and they could showcase a new product. And that used to happen for show cars sometimes as well, if they wanted to make a big splash about a new product. And of course we wanted to be the front runners in or the tastemakers or whatever you want to call it, to kind of shout from the treetops about it. I can't remember about a car going over to the Nürburgring just to make a better backdrop. Cars did go to the Nürburgring, and we did have a huge budget. I won't lie. We did have an absolutely massive budget, which is why I feel like I was there at the right time. You could come up with a good idea and you could pretty much get it over the line. So yeah, I have many memories of it, but I can never remember them when I'm right on the spot. But we used to do all sorts. I mean, before I turned... let me think. We did an urban golfing mag shoot. I found out that there was a road legal golf cart that you could buy. Got the golf cart from Brad Shaw Battery Cars. And we drove it around Peterborough, and we teed off from the top of a multi-storey car park, from the middle of those roundabouts, not a roundabout that I've pooed on, and all sorts of other things. We did a fox hunt once with a model dressed as with a foxy tail and a foxy pair of ears on, and we chased her in modified cars. All sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. VMAX at Bruntingthorpe with ladies who weren't wearing very many clothes. Those ideas were not mine. Last question, and I'm going to have to tie this up. The last question is this. Question for Jonny from Alex Brunsden. With electric cars being such a polarising topic amongst the car community and a seeming dip in sales / trust in EVs recently, do you have an opinion on how manufacturers can reignite the hype that people had for EVs around 2018 to 2020 when there were this new exciting market? Could you make them more affordable, more enthusiastic orientated EVs? I ask as you seem particularly open to EVs and their various features that are more advantageous than ICE cars. Keep up the good work. Really good question, Alex. Serious question. Yes, I have seen this backlash on EVs and a general mistrust. It's like something's been turned backwards. I don't know whether it's post-COVID. I don't know whether it's because electricity prices rose, as you probably know, after COVID, so it cost more to charge at home. Tariffs were less, geared less towards EV drivers. There's this whole thing about the residuals. They took a dip last winter, and that was the first dip EVs had taken in residuals ever. Before that, they were extremely buoyant, and of course people were very quick to kind of laugh at them and ridicule them and say that they're useless and that, I don't know, the battery's going to fall out of it after 7 years. There's so much scaremongery and misinformation about, which I think is a real shame. I mean, I enjoy a lot of EVs. Rich drives an EV as well. We both think that EVs are fit for purpose, and in a multiple car family they work extremely well a lot of the time for a lot of journeys. I'm actually going to be buying an EV soon as well, another one. I've owned a couple of different things, including range extenders. But enthusiast, I mean, Hyundai are doing great things with that i5N, which has had rave reviews. I mean, obviously the Tesla Plaid gets a lot of attention. I think EVs are gradually going to become more enthusiast-led in the same way that Formula E appeals to an audience who don't have any prejudices that are ingrained in Formula One because maybe they're too young to have enjoyed Formula One. They're coming at it with fresher eyes. I also think that simpler, you wrote down more affordable and simpler. I think that market of EVs needs to grow. We've gone too high-end, too physically big, too heavy, and we need to think about the other end. and I'm saying this 3 weeks before I drive the new Renault 5. And I think the new Renault 5 is probably the most exciting new car to be launched in 2024, full stop. There are so many cars being launched that I'm not interested in. I actually think the Renault 5 has done so well at capturing the spirit of the original and capturing the attention of non-EV enthusiasts, some of which are mates of mine who have tapped me on the shoulder and gone, this looks amazing. And I've gone, yeah, it's pretty special, right? So I think that's going to happen. Are we going to see some other motorsport? I don't know when it comes to motorsport. I think it'll be more about people trying them for themselves. I think the way EVs need to grow in popularity is they need to be lent to more people with proper information to try them over a week-long period or a 3-day-long period. I think that would help immensely, and hopefully try and dispel this misinformation and this idea that if you're interested in electric cars and you own one, that you've suddenly got to abandon any interest in any form of piston car, which I think is just simply not the case and wrong. So there we go. That is me. As always, thanks everybody for listening to Smith and Sniff. We'll be back as usual with an hour-long talking bobbins together. And if you have a message to send to us, you know the email address. It's hello@smithandsniff.com. All that's left for me to say are 3 things: cheers, mate, thanks, mate, and bye.